curious about is more of the nitty-gritty now going forward as we're a week away from training camp opening up. Yes, Bryce Young brings the optimism. Yes, the Carolina Panthers have been dripping in nostalgia. It's been a lot of fun to check out. Well, last time I checked, I mean, I haven't refreshed Twitter. It's in my notes. He doesn't have a contract yet, does he?
I think it's close, but no. I mean, look, we all know where that we all know how this ends. So yeah, he's gonna have one. He just signed a deal with Bojangles, Joe. I mean, come on.
I saw him with the pictures, with the boxes outside Bank of America Stadium. You can't have Bojangles boxes and not be locked in. Come on now.
Exactly. He's already committed. I mean, it's really just a matter of minutia and trivialities when it comes to the football contract, but they'll get it done.
All right, so speaking of contracts, where are we on Brian Burns? Because that seemed to be another offseason priority for the Carolina Panthers. There's clearly interest in Brian Burns. There was a lot of draft picks reportedly thrown the Panthers' way to get him, but Panthers feel strongly that they've got the guy they need in that position, so where's the contract to go with it? Where do things stand with that?
Oh, I think that this is one that I don't think it's contentious. I don't think it can be. It couldn't be because of the way they operated last year. They signaled to everybody, we're keeping this guy. We don't want your first-round picks. We don't want your 2 first-round picks. We don't want your 2 first-round picks or your second-round pick. This is our guy. We're going to keep him. And so right now it's a matter of, okay, how high is the price going to go? Is Brian Burns willing to take any sort of haircut to make sure that players around him, are also getting paid? Not that he necessarily should. It's just a matter of what's that conversation like. And Nick Bosa is going to reset the market no matter when that deal gets done. That guy's going to get probably $33 million a year. So we've got a promo running on the station of me like a month and a half ago, ranting that, hey, probably $23 million. And then you look at Bosa and I'm like, I think that might be a little bit short. It might be more than 24, 25, 26 range when it's all said and done. They're gonna get the deal done. They already didn't want to let him leave, but once you publicly signaled to him that he's that important to you, it's just a matter of what that final number looks like.
There's not going to be any sort of drama with camp opening up. Brian Burns is not the type of guy to not show up, right?
Nah, I mean, you never say never, but sure. One of the reasons that they're so committed to keeping him is because he's been such a good locker room guy. He's been such a good team guy. They have no problems paying him over there. So I think I don't think that's even going to be remotely necessary. I think it's a matter. Hell, by the time I finish the show today, we could hear about a Brian Burns extension being done.
That would be nice because the one thing I've enjoyed about this reset of the Carolina Panthers is that there doesn't seem to be any silliness. It seems like it's being run by adults again at Bank of America Stadium. So that gets us back to Bryce Young and how Frank Reich and the Brain Trust is going to operate. We know when they broke their mini camps that he was positioned as QB1. There's no reason why that's going to regress. So how do you see things opening up for the Panthers next week and how they approach preseason game number 1 with Bryce Young at QB?
Well, I'm sure you saw the report from our mutual pal, Joe Person, the other day that Matt Corral is going to get the lion's share of the reps in preseason, which I think is the right way to go.
Okay.
Andy Dalton needs 0 preseason snaps. He doesn't even need, first-team reps, quite frankly. He's 35 years old. He's been around a long time. He was brought here to be a mentor and a break glass in case of emergency backup, and he's perfectly capable of doing that. They're going to need to get, I'd say, if you want to go on a percentage split, I would think that Matt Corral to Bryce Young, it's probably going to be 75-25.
All right.
You've got to get Bryce reps. You also want to keep him healthy. But I think it's really important to get Matt Corral some reps, not because he's your future, but because not only did you take him in the 3rd round last year, you gave up an additional 3rd rounder to go do that. So, you either need to let him show that he's an NFL caliber quarterback and try to entice someone to trade for him to get some of that value back, or you may want to hold on to him. I don't think they need to be in any rush to trade Matt Corral. This is an important preseason to figure out what they've got in him for multiple reasons. And if Bryce Young is the football savant that he was billed to be coming in and is apparently already showing over there, there's no reason to play him too much in the preseason. Give Matt Corral 75%, give Bryce Young to 25% to get him ready for game speed and be done with it.
And so this is the part that I find interesting because I did see that Joe Person report, but I don't put too much stock in some stuff that's said because remember when they drafted Bryce Young, you had Scott Fitterer talking about how Andy Dalton's, the number 1 right now. Well, we all knew that wasn't the case. While I give the Panthers a lot of credit in how they've done the messaging, they still can't help themselves with a little bit of the saying something but not actually following through on it. I don't disagree with your points about Matt Corral. What do you have in him? We don't really know anything about that guy when they drafted him in the 3rd round. But I also don't want the Panthers to make the mistakes that we saw last year where they had a faux quarterback competition And when they got to game one, Baker Mayfield didn't look like he was prepared to go because they were trying to make Sam Darnold a thing still, right? So I feel like if you are strong about Bryce Young starting game number one, you want him to have that familiarity with his what he's a savant, but you still got to play with the guys you're going to be playing with. So do you think 75-25 is enough with potential playoff implications on the line?
I do, in part because you've got Robert Saleh and the Jets coming to Wofford for a week of practice. Mm-hmm. And, you've been around long enough to know that all these coaches pretty much to a man will tell you they get more out of joint practices 1v1 than they do these preseason games.
Yes.
In large part because they don't want to show anything on tape on these preseason games. Media, when we're going to be there, I'll be at camp for the first practice next Wednesday. Like they'll keep us there for the warm-ups and the stretching and the shell drills. But as soon as they go full on, they're either going to put those guys on the furthest field away with no cameras or they'll kick us out. So they're not going to want to show much. And, that's, first of all, the Aaron Rodgers tie coming to town for camp is obviously going to bring a lot of attention. But, the part that people aren't talking about as much is that's a hell of a defense for Bryce Young to get reps against in joint practices in camp. So I think they can really get value out of that. And I think, as you know, Joe, not only do coaches not have any obligation to tell us the truth, they have no inclination to tell us the truth when it comes to, how they want to handle things. And so when Scott Fitterer and Frank Reich all said, Andy's QB1, anybody who's been around for a couple of years just kind of smiled and said, okay, sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, just let us know when you've changed your minds. And it was just a couple of weeks later, they said, well, hey, we've seen enough that we're elevating Bryce to QB1. And so, of course, naturally, the next question was, so he's going to start week one. Well, we're not there yet. It's just another step in the process. So we all know where this leads, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, Michael, you brought up the Jets, and I'd actually just remembered they're supposed to be on Hard Knocks. So you can try to get in the background? All the cameras are going to be there, man. Come on. You got to know where the camera is at all times. You got to be like Tom Cruise. Always be smiling.
Joe, look at this mug. Look at your mug. I mean, we're two handsome men. We gravitate to the camera. So, I can only imagine how I'll look on HBO here in about a month.
You'll be rocking some Hokies gear?
Well, listen, man, I broke it out today just for you and all the Raleigh Hokies out there. No, I'm excited. It's funny because both of my favorite football teams have had about 5 years of just misery. Mm-hmm. It's not been fun. And then also both of my favorite football teams have recently gone toward the nostalgia, but they bring Brent Pry back. Not that it's actually the exact same. Frank Reich was not one of the greatest figures in Panthers history, but he was there in the beginning. Brent Pry, obviously not one of the greatest figures in Hokies history, but he was there in the beginning. So, they're going back to those original ties. I'm living in a parallel universe with my football teams, it seems, all the time.
I was going to say, you're going to be out at training camp. I'll be in Charlotte for ACC kickoff.
No, I'll be on both.
You're going to be doing both?
Next Wednesday, I'm going to be burning up the interstate. I'm going to be at Spartanburg in the morning, and then I'm busting it back up to Uptown to see you at the Westin.
All right, man. I'll see you there with our very pared down radio setup that I'm looking forward to experimenting with. Hey, man, look, you know me, I'm a tech nerd, so I view it as a challenge, and I'm really curious to see what I can stuff into a backpack and bring to the Ritz-Carlton in Charlotte. All right, so back to the Panthers. You and I have talked about this, and there's some optimism about the division itself. The NFC South is there for the taking, just like the NFC South was there for the taking last year. What's going to keep this team from competing for a playoff spot?
I think injuries, first and foremost. It's a battle of attrition every single year in the NFL. Guys get hurt. How bad will it be? Could this be a year where they can avoid any serious injury to impact players or any lengthy injury? I think that's a big one just to start with. Mm-hmm. And then I think also, who's going to emerge? Like, you've got pass catchers on this team at the wide receiver position that, can be relied upon historically. Adam Thielen is a reliable guy, for instance. At the tight end position, Hayden Hurst is a pretty reliable guy. He's not an elite tight end, but, he's somebody that you can rely on. But in the wide receiver group specifically, like, who's stepping up? Is DJ Chark, after all the injuries last year and the way that he played down the stretch, is he going to take hold of a big role? Does Jonathan Mingo come out firing? Terrace Marshall Jr. is a big one. This guy, he's got the frame, he's got the speed, he's got the hand size. He's got everything. And so, they brought him here, if you'll recall, because of his connection to Joe Brady a couple of years ago. But I mean, him as a pick on his own was not a bad pick. But he and Matt Rule did not mesh. And so once they got rid of Matt Rule, Terrace Marshall Jr. started to come on. If a couple of those guys can start to step up, this passing game can really have a big year. And the third thing I'll give you is, can they generate enough pass rush outside of just Brian Burns? Because they've made no other notable move to this point to bring in an edge rusher opposite Burns. And I don't know that outside of maybe a third down guy like a Marquise Haynes or maybe a Mari Barno, steps up this year. They don't have anyone established opposite Burns right now to go get the quarterback. So, I think those are the three things you look at and probably think that those are going to be the keys to a successful season.
Kyle Bailey, WFNZ in Charlotte. Check him out. Hey, man, we appreciate the time. Looking forward to getting out to Charlotte. Looking forward to actually seeing Bryce Young in a Panthers uniform doing some things here in the next couple of weeks. I'm optimistic. I haven't been this optimistic about a Panthers squad, man, 7 years, 8 years at this point? I mean, it's been a while where the Panthers are actually giving you something to be like, all right, you got my attention. I see where this is going.
I went into 2018 really excited. Of course, that's the season that they started 6-2, and then TJ Watt blows up Cam Newton in Pittsburgh on a Thursday night, and the rest is all down. I went into 2018 pretty excited, but ever since then, it's just sort of been, it's either you're holding your breath or come 2020, we knew it was a complete, restart. So
the only thing so this is the curiosity, a little peel back the curtain in our business, Kyle, before we say goodbye. Matt Rule gave us so much content, right, to make fun of.
At the end of the day, he sure did.
I mean, just by mentioning Matt Rule, I could put this on YouTube and it would get a bunch of clicks because people just want to clown Matt Rule. I think people, it's fun in the moment, but after a while it gets old. You don't want to be talking about the misery. You don't want to be talking about how things are just screwed up and how they continue to screw up. I think people are ready for something new in Charlotte, and that's what this team has an opportunity to cash in on. Let's see if they do it. I'm hopeful they are.
I'm with you. And last thing on that, too, I think part of it is that Matt Rule won't shut the hell up. And look, I've got no personal beef with Matt Rule.
I don't know the guy. We only ever talked to him once, right? When he got the job, he interviewed with us, and I could tell right off the bat that he wasn't really down for shenanigans, which is fine. Whatever. Not everybody's wired that way. I got no beef with the guy, but at this point, that's the Carolina Panthers thing is going to cease being a crutch for him when anybody who cares about Nebraska football wants to see results. So whatever happened and how you got a bad deal or your purification through the fire, people will stop caring about that. I'll be really curious to see how he transitions from that.
No, if he just stopped bringing up the Panthers in public appearances and media interviews, I don't think there'd be as much hatred flowing back in his direction from the fan base. So we'll see. We'll see if he stops.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later. See you next week.
Good to see you, buddy.